Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. This here is a van from Tennessee, and we're gonna get it going for them so that they can get home. Let me show you what it's doing. Neutral, drive, clunk, start. There we go. Now, put it in neutral, then drop it in gear and get going real quick because you're not gonna have much. I'm gonna try to get this inside without breaking something. Okay, now while the antifreeze drains on this thing, I'm gonna catch you up to speed on what we got going on here. This family called me yesterday during lunch. They're on their way from up in Iowa. You know, shout out Cola Corn Star and Thunderhead 289 and Junkyard Digs. I'm sure you're all neighbors. No, definitely not. And they're on their way back to Tennessee. Shout out Vice Grip Garage and Dylan McCool. And you gotta be, you know, real close to each other, right? No, probably not. Anyway, they said they come up to a stop sign and it bucked and jerked, but they gassed it and drove on. And then they got up to the gas pumps at the local fuel stop up here, and when they stopped at the fuel pump, it just boom, died. Okay. And he said what was really weird is you start it back up, it sat there and idle fine. You put it in reverse, you can back around anywhere you need it. You put it in drive, boom, died. Well, they called their mechanic back in Tennessee. He said torque converter. And I thought, no, torque converter would kill it when it's in gear. Well, no, not this one. I don't know how many others are like this. I don't think it was this way on the 125s and 440s that I was working on for General Motors that always did this stuff. But this one here has this problem where the solenoid sticks. But when you're in reverse, it doesn't put oil pressure to the solenoid. So it doesn't activate the torque converter. And as you can see, I got it to moving because I put it in neutral, let off the brake, and then when I put it in drive, it could buck and jump a little bit and get rolling, and then you could give it some gas and get to going. But what we're going to do is we sourced a aftermarket transmission torque converter clutch solenoid, and we're going to throw it in there. We looked for the OE nationwide back order, 8 to 10 business days, if you get it at all. Well, they've already paid for a hotel room for the night. Crossed fingers, hopefully we can get them going today. This does not look like it is a horrible job. Now I'm going to pull the upper radiator hose just to get it out of the way. The radiator tank right here is going to come out. And then I got to pull this exhaust pipe because it loops over top of this front cover. This cover right here, let me get a light. Let there be light! Too much light! There we go. Well, this there is a cover, a felt cover, and it's got another cover underneath of it that covers the valve body. And right about there is where the torque converter solenoid is. Once you get the cover off, it should be a very quick and easy repair to pop that out of there. There's the main plug for the valve body. You got to pull the transmission fill tube off here, the exhaust pipe, and really it's pretty much out in the open. Does call for a little bit of time to get to it. I'm assuming that's because you have to remove that exhaust pipe. Hopefully the nuts come loose okay. I'm gonna hose them down with some panther piss. It's lunchtime right now, so I'll let them soak. And I've got it draining. I don't have to, you know, I could probably work around this upper hose, but just get it out of the way. Just don't make the job harder than it has to be, you know? I'll get back to you when I get back into it. All right, this is my dilemma. This job should be really easy, but it's not. I'm gonna pull that exhaust out. In order to get to it, there's that bolt right there, right on the bottom of the exhaust. There's the top one, there's the bottom one. That bolt is so unbelievably tight that you can't get it loose. And although it looks like it's out in the open, you can't get to it with anything. Nothing. I can get on it with wrenches. I can get on it with ratchets. I can get on it with everything, but you can't rotate that thing. I had a wrench on it and it was laying flat across and pushed up on it until it was bowing the ratchet, snap-on ratchet, and I was touching up there and it had not broke that loose yet. That's how tight it is. Now, from all the others, once it breaks loose, it'll come right off. But I gotta get it broke loose. You can't go on out because you can't. You just can't. There's no way. You can't even put a ratchet on that right there. It won't fit. You have to put a short extension on it. I don't know. I'm sure I'll get it loose somehow. All right, I got it apart. I didn't film because I don't know how to bleep very good yet. Depending on if I left that little piece in a minute ago. Yeah. I don't like engineers. That exhaust pipe was stuck. I mean, it was needlessly tight. I had this ratchet on it, this cheater pipe on it, and then look at the cheater pipe. It's crooked by about 5 degrees. It was more. Rotate it around and bend it the other way. The reason that the exhaust pipe has to come out is this pan sits less than a finger width away from the exhaust. So, okay, maybe the pan will tip out and down. They stuck the stinking tube inside that far, and then they stuck the electric out that far. So, oh yeah, Jenga. And somebody has been into it because this hole here is full of silicone. Something else we got to fix. But at least we're into it now. Okay, that rascal there is the guy that we're after. Just pull the little, I think it's a T15 Torx. Pop it out of there, pop a new one in. I gotta clean everything up and check that cover, and I gotta dig all the silicone out of the hole over here that was blind, where they didn't have a bolt back in it. And hopefully I can, you know, run the chaser down that hole and make sure it's good. Okay, something I hadn't thought about. I gotta use sealant on the cover, and it's sitting there puddling oil and everything. So I pulled the front tires, both of them, and I let it down so that it angles the back end of the van up, and I can get some more fluid drained out of this. And then when I pick it up, the fluid will run to the back of the transmission and I can have a dry place to work. Unfortunately, this bolt right here that was broke off, that I thought was an empty hole, there's another place right here that was an empty hole. So when I was checking, this hole right here, this hole's open. This hole right here has a twisted off bolt in it when I went to clean the transmission itself. So it's gonna stay that way because we can't afford the time or the fact that it's the most difficult one to get to right there to try to tap that out. So there it stays. Somebody else has been in it, but it wasn't leaking because it uses silicone seal. As long as you get everything perfectly dry, and when you put it on there, I'm gonna have to put it on the transmission itself because maneuvering that cover down in there is not fun. I'll let it set overnight and drain, and then do it in the morning. We had to order some parts, exhaust gaskets and stuff, so they had to extend their stay one more day, unfortunately. No one in town had the parts, and the dealer doesn't even know if they can get them tomorrow, so we're having a lot of trouble like that. Just a 2-bolt exhaust gasket, and they don't have it. Okay, there's the old rascal. One thing that has me worried is this thing looks absolutely identical to the one that we installed. And somebody's been into it. I had a bolt twisted off on the cover. I showed you that. Not one that I can get to. But cover's back on. We were able to source collector gaskets, and there's no dipstick here. See, that's customers constantly are complaining about certain things that they do on these vehicles. Why did they do this? Why did they do that? All the time. Nobody asked me. If they would have asked me, I would say, don't do that. But the designers, they really don't care. And the first owners don't care because it's under warranty. That's where it comes to the rest of us to complain about these things, to try to push some kind of change. The only way it's going to get better is if enough people complain about it. And if you don't know about it, how are you going to do that? Oftentimes, the person standing in front of the customer, they're the ones that get the brunt of complaints and sometimes abuse. So, that's why I like to tell everybody, with the state of the world, it was already bad. Now, quality of parts is so far down. That's what worries me. I'm worried that this part has already been replaced and it's doing it again. That means it's going to do it to the customer again. I don't want that. I want them to drive this van for the rest of its life with no problems. So, but this was our only option, because the dealer can't even get the part. They cannot get it from the OE. Nationwide back order. We can't even get exhaust gaskets for it from the dealer. It's part of doing this repair. We ordered them yesterday. They couldn't promise them to us. And of course, this morning we checked. Nope, don't have them. The aftermarket said they didn't have them. But I took the OE part number and I cross-referenced it, and I got a part number from Felpro and just directly ordered that part number from the local O'Reilly's, and there they are. They're the right ones. So that was a trick to get too, because they had 2 of them in Kansas City and 1 of them in Des Moines. I'm at the end of all the routes. They were supposed to put a hub store over here in town, and they didn't do it. They just put another regular store, which, yes, doubles their inventory, but it's not the same inventory. They use a hub store as a warehouse to have, seldom used part numbers, and then they shoot them out to all the other little stores. They could have put one big store, but they didn't do that. So you got 2 stores that carry most of the same parts, and they still don't have the more rarely used ones. but oh well. We got the gaskets. I'll have this thing running this afternoon. They will be on their way back to Tennessee tonight. Okay, I've got the surfaces buffed on the exhaust and back there. Now it's, gonna be the interesting part of getting this thing back in there. Now, checking these transmissions involves a special tool. We called the dealer to try to get this tool. They said we don't sell tools. So we bought this online. It is just a universal style, a dipstick with graduated marks that you can't see really. There they are, every centimeter. And you run this down in there until this hits the bottom and measure the fluid up to here and reference that to the temperature chart that you have in the computer. Would have been so much easier just to put a dipstick in it, but they didn't do that. So here we are. It's I'm gonna do this one-handed. It's on up there. Like I said, we're gonna test drive it and then recheck the fluid, make sure it's not over full. I didn't put very much in it. I think 4 quarts, and it didn't really drain a huge amount either. So we're gonna just, make sure we're good to go on it. Okay, we're all back together. Got the engine sitting here idling. Got fluid in the transmission and coolant in the engine. Now we're gonna shift to reverse, neutral, and there we go. We've got a forward gear without killing the motor. So we were 99% sure that was the problem anyway, but you're always worried. I'm going to top off all the fluids, make sure everything's full. This is the one where it's kind of a chore to get an accurate reading on the transmission, and make sure the coolant is all bled out and it's not going to try to overheat on me. I got all the coolant that I took out back in with a little bit extra. So we're going to take this out, test drive it, make sure we're good to go. Okay, test drive went good. Levels look okay. We can give them a call, let them know they can be back on their way back home. Like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. We'll talk to you later.